Been asked a couple times for a more comprehensive mod list on the car, so that's what we're going to go over today. A little more in depth than that walk around I did, but I'll link the walk around video at the end of this one, and we'll kind of go from there. So you'll forgive me if I forget some stuff. This car's been through a lot of change since its build was first started in 1999. So I may leave some things out here. So I'm going to start first and foremost with the ignition setup, because that's something that I left out completely of that walk around. So it's got two Pro 14 ignition boxes. They're quite expensive, but they pack a punch. 480 volts per of electricity is being provided to each coil every time it needs to fire. You can run them in conjunction and have 550 volts, but that's more so for like a rotary application. The bad thing about those boxes is there's only 4 channels. So there's only outputs for 4 cylinders for each box. I mean, and for something that's $880 US a piece, is you'd think they'd have one that had 6 outputs, but they don't. So 2 of those on here. The ignition harnesses for those you have to make custom. So custom ignition harness on the car. 2 JZ coils, as you know, most of you know that. And the spark plugs, I get quite a few comments about the spark plugs and the gap. We just run the cheapies in here, just cheap coppers. If I'm honest, depends how often the car is getting driven, but usually twice a season I'll replace the plugs. I replaced them last year after about 200 kilometers. So I'm kind of a stickler for maintenance, so even if nothing's wrong with them, I'll replace them anyway. I just don't want to be out having fun and next thing you know it starts to miss under boost and you got to go home. How fun is that? So that's kind of like a thing for me. The plugs I'm on top of constantly. Fuel. So as far as fueling, most of you know there's a stock fuel rail still in this car. It's tapped for a -8 feed and a -6 return. RC 1200cc injectors is what's in the car. There were RC 1000s in it before. I've had run RC engineering injectors in a few cars now, and I can't say I've had a problem with fueling, so I'm a little brand loyal. So that's why those are in the car. The main side of the fueling here, as most of you know, there's a custom surge tank in this car. Frankie did that. There's a Weldon Intank pump that feeds that, and 2345A is a main fuel pump in this car. So it's good to 2,000 horsepower. We shouldn't have any problems with that. As well, there's a Weldon fuel pressure regulator on it. It's got a built-in sensor in it. It's pretty cool. Works with the Motec, so you can see what your fuel pressure is on my dash here. It's kind of nice, and program warnings and whatnot. If the fuel pressure for whatever reason drops below a certain threshold, it's kind of nice that way. So XRP lines, hoses, all business for fueling. That's kind of the gist of that. Let's get to engine management. Most of you know there's a Motec in this car. It's an M600, fully unlocked. So you have your, anti-lag, no lift shift, everything really, everything that you can do with this ECU is unlocked and available. Traction control, but it's not for for me. The Racegrade TC8. So that was one of my, if you guys saw that video I did with my overwinter plans, I was part of that. The TC8 allows me to utilize an individual exhaust gas temperature sensor on each cylinder in the intake, or the exhaust manifold, and tune the car that way. So it's not really a performance upgrade, more a reliability and efficiency upgrade. So I like that. So we did that. Motec everything, right? Front to back. It kind of runs the whole car. Engine management's pretty simple. Nitrous. So it's a single stage wet kit, an NX kit. There are custom switches over here for the bottle heater. It's got an NX bottle heater as well. And the NX purge kit. It's a custom switch over here as well. Just used the factory coin trays, hollowed them out, put a switch in there, labeled them. It's pretty cool. You guys could probably do that pretty easily. Pretty cheap mod, and nobody would ever know it's there. The methanol kit is an AEM unit. Their version 2 unit, a 1 gallon kit. It's ran by a map sensor, and the Motec just takes care of that instead of using the AEM controller with the little dials and stuff like that. A little cleaner, a little easier. And I should mention it's only used on pump gas. On the race gas tune, the Meth isn't used. There's the largest jet in there right now. Yeah, I believe they come with I want to say a 250, a 500, or no, it might be a 500 cc per minute, 750 cc, and 1000 cc per minute. 1000 cc jets in the throttle body right now. The engine side of things is factory crank bearings and main caps. ARP hardware throughout this thing. It's been together for a long time. It's made a lot of power for a long time. A lot of you know that. Somehow it's still with us. Titanium rods. Admittedly expensive. About 3 or 4 times as much as the standard pair of rods. Steel rods for the 7M, but I mean, you're talking about something that's almost 200 grams per rod lighter than a steel rod. So I mean, if you can take a pound or a pound and a half off your rotating assembly, it makes a big difference. So, and you can tell, I can tell, this car versus any other one of my 7Ms that were tickled and fettled, that idle, once you touch the gas, touch that accelerator pedal, it's interactive. Like it'll move those revs around pretty effortlessly. I mean, admittedly, the tilt and clutch and stuff is a lot lighter than a big bulky factory unit and flywheel anyway, so that helps too a lot, but I can tell the difference for sure. In terms of, yeah, titanium rods, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Daniel, in Australia, actually. He's considered a SEP, but was worried about the service life. Admittedly, in the past, in F1 races and race cars, stuff like that, the technology wasn't really there, and the engineering side of things was not there, so there was some reliability issues with titanium rods in the past, but I mean, we're talking 25, 30 years ago. Honda NSX, factory titanium rods. ZR1 Corvette, factory titanium rods. And anything north of $250,000 You're looking at factory titanium rods, so reliability is not really a concern for me with the rods. More so the bearing material, because the rods are so much more dense than the bearing material. The bearing service life is then probably shorter. So back to our list here. The ARP head studs in this down to 100 foot-pounds. The block was lapped properly, head shaved. When it was put together, there's a HKS 2mm stopper type metal head gasket in this, and no problems whatsoever. In terms of the head, shimless buckets. Many of you guys know what the 7Ms, and well, I mean, even JZ cars that they like to spit buckets, spit shims off the buckets, high RPMs with big cams, and shimless is the way to go. So there you are. Custom cams by TED in Ontario. We did a video on that as well. They're 300 duration and just over 12mm lift. So it's a big cam. I like that because it's nice and lopey. Scares children. Ron. So a friend of mine, Ron Ramirez, and a friend of Dwayne's as well, built the intake manifold in this car. It was the first one he did. And it's just a work of art. I'll struggle to upgrade it. Like it looks, it just fits so well. It looks great. I don't know if I can move on from it. As well, he worked with CNR to design the custom dual pass rad in here, dual top feed. So Ron's the man. ARZ, so Arizona Performance Billet valve covers. I believe they only did 10 sets. This is one of those. So it's got those on there. And as many of you know, the turbo was upgraded last winter. So it's a Garrett GT 4202. It's got a 115 back half on it. But now there's a quite larger 11 blade billet compressor wheel on it. So it will flow a lot more air. Still untuned for that. So yeah, we'll make a dyno trip, and more so than anything, I just want to get my pump gas tune kind of, you know, smoothed out a little bit with all these new inner workings and stuff like that, just so I can drive it around. We're not gonna go and smash out 1500 horsepower or something like that this year. Maybe a little bit less though. So that was done by Spectrum Motorsports in Vancouver in Canada here. So, and there's been zero problems with that whatsoever. I took this intake pipe off for this last car show, as many of you guys know, last weekend, and I mean, you know, of course the guy's gonna check the bearings, and it was so tight. I've never felt a journal bearing turbo that was that tight, especially after, I don't know, I'd say probably 1,000 kilometers. You know, and we've two-stepped it a couple times, stuff like that, and it's seen some boost. So, I mean, it's still no problem. I have no concerns whatsoever about that. And this is a big thing of why this car sounds so different, is there's a custom long tube on it. If you guys follow my Instagram, you'll see I put up some pictures of the fabrication of that, and it is certainly a unit to be reckoned with. So it's all Burns material, Burns stainless, for everything, dump tubes, long tube header, or turbo manifold I should say, and the whole exhaust, custom Burns muffler on it as well. What else we got here? Titan cam gears, of course. There's a custom ATI crank pulley on this thing to work with the crank trigger at the time. Now they manufacture it, but back when this thing was put together, it was something that that a couple hands had to aid in the design of, and ATI was nice enough to work with everybody. Custom magnetic cam pickup on this car. A lot of people like that little wheel sitting off the intake cam there. Dual tile 38mm gates. Massive ETS intercooler with custom end tanks on that. Again, most of that stuff is going to be custom meant for you guys too. Intercooler piping as well, custom by Frankie in Vancouver. He did a lot of the fabrication on Dwayne's Mark IV too, and maybe I'll try to show you guys some of that or something sometime. I won't go into too much about that now, but he did a lot of really nice work on Dwayne's Mark IV. Tile 50mm blow-off valve in here in the cold side. Earl's oil cooler. It's got remote oil filters. They're just under the passenger side headlight there. 2 of them, big K&N units. XRP hoses throughout, you guys know that. Transmission. Probably the most offensive part of this build is the transmission stock. Always has been, and it's going to be with us for a long time. Some people have a different opinion, but that's okay. Tilton carbon triple plate clutch. Super, yeah. If I'm honest, when I first started driving the car, I was a little intimidated by it, but after a few kilometers driven, it's just drives. It's like factory now. No problem with anything. Hill starts, blah blah blah. I mean, it's a little noisy. You do get clutch chatter, and you know, there's people have told me my engine's knocking, but it's just a clutch chatter. You know, I get it. A lot of people probably aren't used to that, and it is a little bit loud. So that's just one of the drawbacks of a nasty clutch like that. Tilton clutch fluid in the clutch system here. Drift motion billet shifter extension. Aaron sent that up. That's a super nice piece. I wish there was a way to show it. It looks so good. And Raptor Racing S3 V2. It sounds like a rocket or something. Short shifter. It's the best, hands down, short shifter you could have got for these W58 or R154. A little bit pricey, I have to say. But the feel, the throw, everything, I wouldn't buy a different one if I had to rebuy a short shifter for another one of these cars. There's no way I'd get another one of these. Aluminum one-piece drive shaft in this car as well. This car was actually the first MK3 chassis to have a carbon drive shaft in it. Not a lot of people know that. Dwayne was abusing the car well, and snapped it in half in a, I won't say he was abusing it, but he's having fun with it. And midway down the track, in one of the passes he made at a quarter-mile event, car started to wheel hop, and boom, drive shaft let go, just like that, snapped in half. We're not sure exactly what happened, but you know, that's the circumstances in which it failed. The diff is it's a TRD diff, stock 373 gears in it. It'd almost be nice if it had a little more gear in it, like a longer ratio, but 373 is fine just for what we're doing. And Weir internals, Weir assembled it. Suspension on this car is TN or Teen or however it's said, type HA coilovers. It's got an EDFC in it as well, so you can adjust the dampers remotely here from inside the car. It's kind of cool. Not that I ever use it. Excuse me. And CFX rear trailing or tow arms, I should say. Short of that, the suspension's pretty standard. Poly bushings throughout, of course. And it's got a set of White Lion, I believe, sway bars, adjustable end links now. Brakes are AP Racing. Up front, we cover that in that walk around. Big two-piece rotors, so full float rotors. The idea with that is the aluminum hat and the steel rotor, with them being two pieces, there's less heat transfer from the rotors into the aluminum hat, and therefore less wear on wheel bearings and stuff like that as well, because in heavy braking situations out on track and stuff like that, that's commonly overlooked, and it's a killer of wheel bearings, successive heat. As well as the AP Racing brakes, there is AP Racing brake fluid in here. It's their Radical brake fluid, so I just changed that out as well. Stainless lines all the way around. The wheels everybody knows, CCW Classics. What a lot of people don't know is the sizes and offsets. I get that question a lot, so I'm going to address that for everybody right now in bulk. The front wheels are 18 by 8.5, and they are a plus 30 offset. And we run a 245/30/18 in the front, and full lock, hitting bumps. I mean, as most of you know, the car sits pretty low, and there's never a problem with any clearance whatsoever. Rear is a 17 by 10, and it's a plus 25 offset. 275/40/17 is what we run in the rear. And no rubbing, but the fenders have been rolled. Interior, where we are now, is pretty standard MK3, but it is shadow gray, so it's out of a 91 or a 92 car. The Recaro speed seats are awesome. I mean, I wouldn't put another... If something happened to these seats, I'd buy another set. And that's that. I like them. They're awesome. TRD knob. We did the Sparco stuff, these harnesses, and the steering wheel the other week. Simpson chute handle down here. This cage was done custom for this car by Frankie as well. I'm going to leave Frankie's his Instagram in the description here, so you guys can check him out on Instagram. He builds crazy stuff. Like, crazy. So I'm going to leave that for you guys. Check it out. So back to this cage. It was a full meal deal cage. But with all the scaffolding up in the front here, it's as many as you know. I mean, it's not really a street car thing. You're always smashing your head on it and stuff like that, and that's not too cool. So I like that Dwayne had it modified with removable door bars. Not that I take the door bars out, you can still get in quite easily, but if you wanted to, or if you weren't so limber as you used to be, you can still get in easily. Custom carpeting and floor mats all around this thing. Matches the interior nicely. It's a little bit lighter, so it kind of contrasts nicely. Probably not, important to most people, or requirement, but it's a nice touch. Especially in the back, carpeted in the back, and the surge tank cover and stuff like that. Super awesome. Dynamounted throughout, so this car is quiet. On the highway, I mean, there's a little drone from the exhaust, but you'd expect that out of a car like this, right? But livable. Like, I mean, I have no hesitations about taking this car on a road trip at any time and being uncomfortable. It's good. It's quite nice and quiet till you let her eat, and then it's not so quiet. Where are we now? Pexi boost gauge over here. Not that, it's required. The Motec, it logs everything. So it's just something to break up the dash a little bit. Be almost too simple without it, I think. So we got our Motec CAN to USB converter here. So you plug your laptop in. Pretty convenient spot. Or CAN to serial, whatever. Motec CDL3. I love this display. It's awesome. Throughout all different modes, you can, you know, move different values, your fuel pressure, wideband values, it's all around. There's a few different modes in here. And for data logging as well, it's awesome. So this display will log up to 8 megabytes of data, which is a lot. Like that's a lot. It's a long time to data log. So it's constantly recording everything. So if I'm out, something happens, boom, the car goes into limp mode. I come home, I plug the computer in, and I can see from the ECU and the CDL3 here what the problem was right now. There's a race pack as well, so the cluster LEDs you can assign for, you know, a shift light, certain warnings, stuff like that. There's a and all different colors, right? So you know immediately which each one means. It's kind of nice. The body, Dwayne made this bumper. We covered that in that walk around. Carbon fiber FX. This is the first one he ever made. Still on the car. I think it's cool. I don't know if I'll ever change it. If I did change it, I'd just go back to stock. But besides the bumper, the whole thing was painted in 08 and wet sanded. There's no orange peel. There's no real paint defects. It basically just looks like somebody poured milk on your car and it just stayed that color. It's pretty perfect. I love white. It's awesome. It's a great color. So I wouldn't say I would have done anything differently either. All new belt moldings as well. Windshield trims, everything new from Toyota, but one piece on the right rear that couldn't be found new at the time, so that was painted with the car. In, you know, effort to be transparent, it's a street car and it's not perfect, so I'm telling you guys little things like that so you understand that it's or it's easier for you to understand that it's not just a money pit and it's a real car. It's had problems like you've had with your builds too. So that piece just could not be found, so it was painted with the car, and that's all there is. Simpson chute back there, an electric cutoff. That's just another tech thing, kind of like the cage. It's not you know, something you need to spend your money on, but it was required to play with the car at the track, so that's why it was done. And that largely covers a lot of it. Obviously, as a Pioneer doubled in here and aftermarket speakers and stuff like that. It's got Bluetooth and nav and all your amenities that maybe a new car would have. There's no AC or power steering. I should say that too. So no AC, but it's a perfect weather car. So if the windows can't be down, I don't take it out, and that's all there is. You know, power steering is something we're gonna look into in the future. I know that and you guys might want to know this too, that an 06 Prius electric power steering rack was secretly made for this car. Literally 3 wires and it all fits under the dash. So we're going to do that too. Probably next winter. I mean, not to say that I need power steering, but it'd make it a little easier for, you know, your commute to work or whenever you'd want to take it. So that's that. I'm sorry it was a dry video, just me talking in here, but that's the mod list for the most part. Of course, there's other things like the CDL3 was recessed into the factory cluster, so it was a bit of a custom ordeal. Stuff like that. But most of the things you could buy off the shelf we listed for you in this video. I know I'm forgetting some, so forgive me on that. But I mean, with a build as old as it is, I wouldn't say it's an old build, but in progress as long as it's been in progress. Like I say, since 1999, there's been a lot of stuff on this car, and it's had its growing pains, and it's been through some trials. So for the most part, that's it. So I wanted to film that for you guys because I've been asked for it a few times. So there it is. Let me know if you guys have any questions. As always, I try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. But I'm going to type out this mod list as well. So if you don't want to watch the whole video, you can just skim through the mod list and kind of see what's on here. That's that. So that's that. Mod list done. I'm going to film for you guys as well why or how I got into Supras, because we all have a reason why. And I've been asked a couple times, so I'm going to film that as well now, but I'll post that for you guys next week. And that's that. See you guys later.